Hey, Sloss Tech, how you doing? Anybody? I'm Ferris Bueller's teacher. Anyone? One of the things I've loved about Sloss Tech has been the entrepreneurial spirit. And as I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, I thought about I've really been inclined for entrepreneurship since I was a little kid. So when I was 6, we had moved to Auburn. My dad had a fellowship for a year. And I decided I wanted to make some money. And there was a pecan tree in the backyard. So I went and collected all these pecans, told my mother, I'm going to sell these. I want to earn some money. But then I didn't know what to charge, so I got pricing guidance from my mother. These would be 2 cents a piece. And we lived in this duplex. Next door were these 3 college guys who were very cool, very nice gentlemen. And so one of them drove up, and I went over with my bag of pecans and told him, did he want to buy some? And he said, sure, how much? And I said, they're 2 cents a piece. He said, great, I don't remember the numbers, 20 or 30. And I was excited for a second, and then I had this awful realization. I'm 6, and I can't do the math in my head of what to charge this guy. And so then I had this awkward thing, if you've done sales or entrepreneurship, of how are you going to do that? And I just admit, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. He said, it's no problem, and this is how much it cost. Crisis averted. And he pulled out a $1 bill, and then I realized, well, crap. I didn't bring change. So he said it was fine, I could keep the whole $1. He was very nice. And so at the end of the day, I retired from the pecan retail business, despite making exceeding profit over what I had anticipated. But these are the lessons of entrepreneurship that we learn by falling down by doing. And so what I need, instead of, the flashlights are cool, I need, though, not just for me to see, but for you to hear, I want to ask you 3 questions with a big yes. How many of you here feel you're an entrepreneur now or aspire to be an entrepreneur in the future? Yes? All right. How many of you love a startup or even a high-growth company that's not a startup? How many of you like that? Yes? Okay. And how many are just glad to not be in the office today and hang out with all these cool people? Yes? Yeah. All right. So the question is, okay, why is a real estate guy here at a tech entrepreneur conference? So I want to start first with, how many of you have seen this information before, that Uber is the world's largest transportation company, owns no vehicles, and Airbnb is the largest provider of accommodations and has no real estate. Have y'all heard that? Yes? Okay. It's crap. It's wrong. Here's the reality. These are brokerages. The transportation, they're not a taxi company. People need a ride. People have transportation and the vehicles. They broker the deal, and they use technology to provide the convenience. That's the game changer, a better broker. Airbnb is exactly the same thing. People want a place to stay. These people have it. It was very hard and disjointed to put it all together. They broker the deal. They keep money from the transaction. They add convenience. The idea that they have radically changed the world is partially true, but the idea that you just make an app, these are not even really software as a service companies, these are brokerage deals, and this is exactly what we have done with Lake Homes Realty. And we are, by definition, a brokerage. You say, well, Glenn, brokerages have been around forever. That's true. But we've done the same thing. We've started with lakes, which is not our end destination. That's our beginning. People have an interest in lake homes. People have lake homes. They're far apart from each other, just like trying to find accommodations when you travel. We've built data and aggregated data from a large number of data sources, where in the markets we exist, we are without a doubt the easiest way to locate these properties and to help the buyers and sellers. We help add convenience to the transaction. We actually went to a tech conference, a couple of capital conferences, and each time I got up and said, we're a real hybrid. We're tech and we're real estate in a way that's never been done. And at the end of one of them, they said, you're really a real estate company, and we wanted tech. And the other people said, you're really the opposite. And we're like, we told you from the beginning, we're a different thing. So this is why we're here, is that we refer to ourselves as a tech-enabled services company. Now, the other thing that led me to talk with Dion about speaking today is I go to a lot of conferences, and in all of them, they have very inspirational speakers. These are amazing stories of success and overcoming. But sometimes I found things a little lacking. It would be, well, we really had these challenges and we believed in the power of technology, or we believed in the power of women, or we believed in the power of our team, and we overcame them. And it's a very heartwarming story, but I think it lacks a little meat, because I would come to these people that have been big successes, and I'd want to know how did they do that? What are the mechanics? What are the pieces? And I'd leave, and my page would have nothing I could take back and use. And so I'd leave somewhat inspired but disappointed. And if the risk of being very politically incorrect and not to insult people with inspiring stories, I actually think if you are really an entrepreneur and you need inspiration to get you to do this, you're probably going to be replaced by robots. So this is the type of thing where we want to engage about how we're doing things. And so today, the other thing is when you come speak to a thing, like whether it's here or a TED Talk, they say the perfect speech should be a really big idea. And then stories and humor and supporting data, and then close with your really big idea. So I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to take a bunch of pieces and parts, like a bunch of Lego blocks, and I'm going to throw them on the floor so you can walk on them and hurt your feet and hear them ramble up in the vacuum cleaner. And I want you to take some of these. My goal is that I'm just going to throw a bunch of them out, and my hope is that you, if you aspire to be an entrepreneur or you want to lead a team, now or in the future, that maybe there are a few of these Lego blocks that you can pick up and put with your Lego blocks, and maybe I'll leave you with at least one actionable item that you can take with you. In fact, I tell my team when we get our folks together from around the country, write down things that are striking to you, and at the end, pick one you're absolutely going to do. Because if you leave with a whole list of ideas, you're probably not going to do all of them. But I do know that I need to give you a little bit of context, so I know you may not really care that much about all the pieces of our story, but I want to tell enough of it because it's going to be the path and the journey of how we got where we are and where we're going. So my background, I'm certified, absolutely okay to be amongst this group because I have a Bachelor of Computer Engineering, so I'm as nerdy as they come. I had a boutique firm that did unusual custom software and data system projects for years that ranged from boring little systems to literally routing trauma and stroke patients to the right hospital to improve their care. Very exciting. Got to work with a lot of companies as they grew from startup to bigger. So been involved in that scene. There's also, with all businesses, nobody does success alone. And we've got a great team. We're growing our team. But from the start, a lot of what we're doing as well I co-lead this company with Doris, who had her history in real estate title insurance and transaction management and closings. And she had a vision of technology. In fact, Dell Computer did a case study of how something as mundane to most of you as real estate title insurance, of how they use technology to change the customer experience. And she's our chief operating officer, and she is now a broker in 7 states. So she is somebody, if you want to know about real estate, she's the master. And I want to do a brief aside, because the other thing is the mayor talked about today. We want to do things about improving our community. And Doris, she's built one company that's been award-winning. Now she's got that and still doing this, but she's got something else I do want to briefly mention. In fact, Doris, just so you want to know this lady right here. So Doris also started... Here's what's also amazing. While she's doing all this, she started the Circle of Love Foundation. It's thecircleoflove.org. They have done meaningful Christmas gifts and complete back-to-school supplies for 7,000 children living in area shelters and impoverished areas. So, we want to do, this is our community, so it's not just heads down in tech. And you may have surmised that you probably don't see many management team photos that look like that. So if you've not surmised already, it is Doris Phillips. She is my bride. And we're not in this, we didn't start the business. We were brought into it separately. So the brief story on this is she has a business, I have a business. We're a true dual entrepreneur household. Zane Torrance with Founders Investors knew us separately. And so one of the Lego block ideas is not just who do you know, but who knows you. We'd shown up at enough things that Zane knew me separately. She was part of the Venture Club's Entrepreneur Accelerator program, and he was a mentor. Tech, entrepreneurship, married to real estate. And he went for months going, Glenn, I've got this lake thing I need you endorsed to look at. And we ended up finally having a meeting, and the original idea was essentially a Zillow for lakes. Wanted to know what we thought about the business idea, and we basically said, there's a pony in there somewhere, but not your business model. There's actually reasons of it being a regulated industry that this is going to be a problem. You could fix it, though, by not being a pure.com, even though that's your aspiration, but adding a true brokerage. That solves your fatal flaws. They said thank you. That was the end of it, and we thought that was kind of a neat idea. And we together had done some angel investing. So we were used to kind of thinking about vetting business ideas, were they viable? 4 months later, saw Zane at Adventure Club lunch, and he said, hey, Glenn, are you still interested in that lake thing? I have no idea what that question means. So I went, yeah. Because if Zane Torrance wants to meet with you, you want to meet with Zane Torrance. So we went, and he said, I don't know where you're at in your respective lives, your relationship, your businesses. Would you like to run this business for us and try your idea? Now, Doris told me, because we'd discussed, there was something special here that we'd not seen in many businesses. She said her inside voice went, yeah. But my literal face went, maybe. And we spent a couple of months piecing this together. So here's what the real offer, though. It took 2 months to put this proposition to us. And I want you to think about, would you have taken this deal if it was offered to you? Was something you'd not really ever expected to get into. Here was the real reality. We have this business that our original business idea didn't really work. Everybody who worked here except one engineer has left, and he leaves for Google in a month. The software is maybe a functional prototype with no agents on it and one data feed. And the best part, all the money we raised has been spent and we have debt. Would you like to run this business? So we pondered that, and we thought there was such an interesting thing there, even though we had our own businesses, that we wanted to explore that. But we also wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, because we'd not done high growth, to work with this team that is specialists, the folks at Founders and their sphere of influence, this board that had put the company together. We wanted to spend time with these individuals. So the other thing here is we actually agreed to work initially only for equity, to spend 2 months to figure out if we should kill the business and the equity would be worth nothing. And we took that bet because of the opportunity. So the Lego block on this is that all opportunities are going to come with challenge, and you will want to explore them and see what happens as you go along and step on those Lego blocks that may hurt your feet a little bit. So this journey accelerated. So in 2013, we've spent 15 months exploring. I'm going to share some of the pieces along this journey, so if you do it, you won't have to repeat the mistakes, or maybe you'll find something you can use when you do your journey. And as we went along this, we finally said, we've got to, no pun intended, put the boat in the water and see if it floats. In 2013, we started with 2 questions. We said, we're going to go live, we're going to do this. We had no money. One investor put in just enough to get us moving, kind of like a shove off a hill. We're on our own to fund ourselves. Will our idea work? And so we began with 2 questions. Not would it make money, but would real estate agents who were really good come to a company that has no offices, highly virtual? Would they leave the safety of where they're at? And second is, would the consumer use this lakehomes.com website and actually use our agents and not phone a friend, which is what most people do in real estate? And it took a while. We met with a number of real estate agents who went, yeah, that seems pretty neat. Has anybody else done it yet? Well, you would be the first. And we talked several people into selling only our idea, meeting after meeting after meeting. We thought it logically made so much sense they would just go, aha. But people are sensitive to change. By the end of 2013, we had 7-figure revenue. We think we were onto something, and we expanded and expanded. So this year, we'll have more than 15 times that revenue. We're a licensed brokerage in 26 states. We'll have 3 or 4 more that are in the queue. And yet we don't feel that we've really done anything but lay a base foundation. This has monster opportunity to enable the tech and move forward. And it's through a help of a lot of folks. And I want to tell you how we kind of vetted should we have done this and how those things work. One of the things that was really important, where it was different than the companies we had done some angel investing, was the opportunity to create unfair advantage. If your product's just going to be a little bit cheaper or just a little bit more efficient, that's not going to convince people of the pain that they're going to have to make a change. We needed to create real unfair opportunity. Back about Uber and Airbnb. The unfair opportunity they had was, on scale, they could create convenience. And we believed we could do that. In fact, now we have, if we flash forward, we're members of 1/6 of the MLS systems to collect data in the country, and we aggregate it. You can't even search for lake homes on Zillow as well as you can in the markets we serve. So we thought we could leverage that. We also realized that most real estate companies we analyzed the other businesses. Who's going to come try to kill us? And could we have enough advantage to defend ourselves? And you can go on. These are questions you'll ask if you look through anything about evaluating your business plan. Is it scalable? Is it defendable? Those are things you need to do anyways, but we still wanted to explore this in much more detail. One of the things when we heard pitches for capital, when we were doing the angel investing, was they didn't really have dug into the numbers as deep. If your idea is, it's a $50 billion market, if we get just one little piece, we're going to kill it. That actually is unimpressive. It means you haven't dug. So Doris and I are both into the data, but it's not just things you can find online. Data is sometimes hard to come by, and part of our opportunity is something that I think you can find, is that sometimes the big markets are just hidden because of how the market has always been assembled. Real estate's always about the metro and towns, not the types of property. So we're slicing it different. And so Doris and her team pulled data, and we didn't set out to with a preconceived idea that we had a home run. We're not 20-somethings that if this stinks, we can just go do something else. And our house is all in. So it's not like one of us plays entrepreneur, the other keeps the safe day job. So her team assembled data, and we went looking for the bad market. How did this market do in the bust, and what size is it? It turns out nobody knew how big the real estate market for lake property was in the state of Alabama. Here's a surprise for you. In the down economy, the bust, $1 billion worth of lake property changed hands in Alabama. $1 billion in the bust. And nobody knew it. So the Lego block here for you is, maybe the market you seek is hidden and obscured, and if you can find the data and slice it differently, you can explore that. We also set out not to say we're right. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they've come up with a solution, they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to be cool, they want to be tech, and they're selling, and man, they love it. But the reality is, we wanted to see, was our idea good enough to survive the no's? So our agreement was, we're going to go meet with people we know, but they love us. They'll say what you want to hear. And then we're going to talk to people we don't know. We agreed we would get yeses, nos, and the puzzled look my dog gives. We kept establishing more meetings because we got the puzzled look and we got the yeses, and no one said don't do it. It actually concerned us a little bit that we hadn't, and we gave permission. When you go pitch with a new idea, give permission for them to say, are we full of crap? Are we drinking our own Kool-Aid? You want to know this. You may love your idea, but that's not the point. In fact, it can scare investors because you will fight to preserve the idea instead of change it to something that may be better. I'm a little obsessed with the movie Moneyball, and I think we've actually built our team kind of in that idea. And if you've not seen the movie, read the book, the real idea is that the Oakland A's were a small market team, and the reality is, in some industries, you can't change the game, but you can change how you build and structure your team. And that's what we decided to do. Because in real estate, if you show up too weird, the other brokerages won't want to deal with you, and they'll not show your properties. It's inappropriate, it borders on illegal, but it's a fact of life. So we set out to build our team and our processes differently, which is part of the reason why the industry is confused with what we are. They base it on, do you have thousands of agents? We base it on our agents sell more than anybody else. We're the efficient team. So we did that launch. We've grown in. We've produced all these things. We've been moving along. We've added. We're still funding ourselves. We've still not raised capital, and I'm going to touch on that. A lot's been touched on data and analytics, and these folks have nailed it. But I want to say, if you are building a business or a project, there are a lot of the companies here I know are very good at the data and the analytics. This is something, though, you can keep digging and digging at these numbers, but to find the right numbers. And one reason to find the right numbers is not to see you're successful, but to find those failures and kill them as quickly as possible. Test and verify. Test and verify. I want to talk a little bit about your team and your board. So we've got 4 members of this advisory investment board, and they are all 4 very accomplished investment bankers, successful business people on businesses of scale. We're this tiny thing in the realm of what they work with. But they were interested in this. They thought they had a big upside, and they all have lake homes, so they got the problem. But we're going to a meeting, and we've been with lifestyle businesses. So we're exploring these lifestyle. We've done this. We've been part of the accelerator program, but we're going to a meeting, and Doris said, "I get a little tense about these meetings." And I said, "Well, they're really nice guys, and they're here to help us be successful." She said, "Yeah, but not that." I said, "I get it." I said, "I'll be honest. I feel like I'm in a little over my head. These guys have bet on us, but we got into this for the opportunity as well of what can we learn from them even if we don't do this business." That's the lesson, the opportunity. The Lego block is find a place. Maybe it won't work, but can you learn from people who've done it, who've had the home runs, of the little minutia that makes the thing necessary? That's a crazy opportunity. We couldn't write a check to spend this much time to meet with these 4 gentlemen once a week. It's like having Shark Tank at your disposal. Now, we're investing time and some risk to our business. Yeah, but man, what an opportunity if you'll step forward and seize that opportunity. And we felt better at that point. But I said, remember, there's something else going here. Everybody at the table brings something that's necessary. Nobody is at this table because we're buddies and friends. We're friendly with each other, but you run into a lot of challenges if you start a business with your buddies and you don't bring something critical to the business to your leadership team, even for a project team. Who brings it? So she had real estate background nobody had. In fact, she saw problems in their business model just like that. They'd asked to begin with, they'd saved a lot of money and pain. I had some background with the tech, as well as converting that tech to make it easy to use for businesses. We also saved an awful lot of money in the early stages in transportation, since we only need 1 hotel room. So when we put this together and we meet at these tables here, one of the things that we want to work on here, I've made a point, though, to be coachable. We had invested in one company. It was a small investment, and I was on the board. And there were a lot of really smart people on that board, and the CEO loved his company. He wanted to be the guy. It turned out he was like, oh, that guy. He was uncoachable. You tell him these are the things you need to do to plan and project and do models of the business in the future. And he just wouldn't. He'd show up and talk about his meeting with somebody important, but it didn't get business. He talked about opportunities for exposure, or we've got this PR opportunity. He just wanted to be the guy. So I was very deliberate, and this is another Lego block of don't come in loving your idea and trying to be right. Figure out how to be successful. They say about fail fast. That's good, but the real point here is it's not even about fail or not. It's not be so married to your ideas, but also realize, I also had to learn to take it the other direction a little bit. We had these meetings that we're having. I had one of them, and Doris was not able to attend that day, and I said, I have a confession to make. All 4 of you have given me all these instructions. I feel like I'm a CEO in training for what we're doing. You've given me all these things to do, and by golly, I'm going to do them. And here's the problem. There's so many things you've given me, I'm failing. I'm not getting them all done, and I'm still trying to run the business. I'm spread so thin. Tactical's beating the crap out of strategic. So I don't know what to do here. I feel like I'm failing. It was a bare your soul moment. But you need this kind of honesty. This is a Lego block as well. You need this kind of honesty with who you work with. There was silence for a minute. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And one of the guys leans over and says, you do know you can tell us no. And I said, as a matter of fact, I had no idea. So he said, do this. You turn in your report here. Make a list of in 1 page, double space. Just make all the things that are the big things we've talked about, the things you're working on, put them in one list. Put the best ones on the top, the ones you're not touching at all, but we don't forget that they're ignored at the bottom. The stuff in the middle is getting some attention. And if you ever are unsure, we're unsure of what you're doing, now we know, and if it's wrong, we'll correct it. They have never changed my report. But it has forced me to focus on that priority every time I do that report. So speaking of reports, like who likes to do reports? There's a careful balance as well about reporting. Even if you don't have a board, another Lego block is do self-reporting or report to a board in a digestible, not fluff, not like, look how great we're doing, but here's the raw reality of what worked and what failed. I want you to explore that because it forces you to work on the business instead of just at the business. You can get harried in your entrepreneurial day, and to begin with, entrepreneurship is sloppy and you can be rushing forward. Report to yourself if no one else. You can do this on a team, even if it's not a company. Report to yourself, take the time, because it makes you like reading a novel. It makes you really look at the things and have your money numbers, your projections, your goals, your priorities, and the things that are wrong, the things you still need help with. There's also a secondary benefit. We had a member of the board who would ask me questions, and I would start to answer, and he would interrupt me. And I found that very frustrating. Doesn't he want to know what I had to say? And he did it a lot. And instead of confronting him with this issue, I pondered, why is he doing this? I had a theory. So another Lego block is test your theories, even if it's in your communication. So I showed up with a stack of reports kind of like this, and they teased me about killing a tree. And when this member asked me a question, instead of starting to answer, I looked like I was dealing blackjack with reports. Smoothest meeting ever, and here's why. I realized he didn't want the answer. He just wanted to know that I knew the answer. And that's accountability. I've started at times doing that with some of my staff, and I need to probably explain better, because he didn't explain it to me, that I'm not trying to be disinterested. I just need to know you're on track. And that's a takeaway for both your team and for yourself. And if you're not being held to that level of accountability, find somebody who will do it. Want to talk about money? Yes? Okay. So I haven't, and maybe it's because we've mostly self-funded. I think it's amazing the companies who've raised capital to do things, but there's a little bit of a danger of this, of almost the over-celebration of the capital raise. Think about this. Most capital raised for businesses will be lost. Most of the businesses will fail. But it's a big landmark, and it means somebody trusted you that they believed in you to buy a part of your business, whether it was for good terms or bad. So that's a thing to celebrate that you've accomplished, but isn't in the end the real thing you accomplish is the money that you earn? There are some great businesses in town who have self-funded, and they haven't gotten the press for their success. We've gotten great press, so this is not me whining. They haven't gotten the success because they just grind, and it's not a, wow, they got a big raise of capital. It's because they're just printing money. They are killing it. So the danger for you if you're wanting to start a business, though, the Lego block is not that the raise is good or bad. You need an accelerant, and this is an accelerant. And we may at some point raise capital, but it's to not do it too early and inappropriately, because you just think it's the automatic, well, we start and we get a great idea and we bring in some capital, and then it's all going to be IPO time and we're rich and we're the next Zuckerberg. So it has to be timed. And here's the personal example I have. Another little Lego block was we looked at raising capital. A danger of going very lean in self-funding is your team is spread too thin. We were spread too thin. Already I told our board I'm spread too thin. So what we decided when we started to explore capital was I said, stop. We can't digest the capital. And that's a phrase I think you really ought to, can you digest the capital? I said, we're spread too thin. I can't go out and hire 5 key people and get them trained to how we do it. And if we bring in people from real estate, they're going to do it the way it was always done, which is wrong. And we'll have to break them of it. And if they're new with our tech, they've got to get up to speed on this. We need to let us self-fund, we're making money, grow our infrastructure and our team, and let that be the accelerant. And when we bring in capital, it's when we want to go in, we either want to take, and we've got this crazy solid foundation, and we're ready to explode it. You know, Amazon started with books to figure it out. Lakes are our books. So I want to finish up now with about Doris and I, about how do you work with somebody that's a friend, a spouse, a significant other. because that can be a bit of a challenge, and a lot of relationships are ruined by this. Now, we were already had a very good relationship before we started, and one of our priorities in our discussion was to discuss, would this business put our relationship at risk? And that was a big question. If it was going to hurt us, it could go away. We have a relationship. One of our relationship rules called the sucks rule. Without guilt or explanation, you can call out on anything, and we'll go do something else. So we discussed, and you do it in advance. So we call sucks on this business. Because up to now, she had employees and business, and I had employees in business, and we would talk about business because we're a dual entrepreneur household, but we didn't always agree, but we could always go, well, not how I do it, but it's your business. And sometimes, I had been the entrepreneur longer than her, my advice was really smart, and she would learn the hard way, and sometimes I'm an idiot, and her idea was a lot better than mine. And so, but we've learned that. We have phenomenal trust and engagement. But not everybody's wired for this. If you're thinking of doing this with somebody who's important to you, you need to be aware that this could hurt that relationship, even if they're not participating in the business. Entrepreneurship is really hard, and you need to have a real heart-to-heart discussion with yourself and with them of the time it's going to consume. The entrepreneurs who are driven, we're the people who work 80 hours to keep from working 40. So you need to know this. You need to have good humor. Not everybody can do this kind of relationship with each other. But if you can, it's really special. I get to see her. I don't hear about how her day went. I get to see her solve problems. I get to see her excited when some of our staff, single moms, are buying their first house. We get to see her knock it out of the park in front of clients or our board. I don't get to hear about it. I get to watch it, and that's a very special opportunity. But if you can't have that trust and engagement, stay away from it, really. It will kill a relationship. You need to think about this, and people don't like to talk about it because, we'll make the best of it. But if you're driven like an entrepreneur and your other person is not, this will rip it apart. Sorry, I sound like a demotivational speaker now. But you want to find this out now and not later. You've got to figure those opportunities out. So one of the things that I hope you take away is that I've dumped a bunch of Lego blocks. I don't have a big close of wrapping all these ideas together. I hope you can find one or two that will serve you, that's been valuable. If that, then I'll have accomplished my goal here, which is not to inspire but to equip. And my name is Glenn Phillips. I hope you want to buy a lake home, and you can go to lakehomes.com. But I hope I have been worthy of your time today. Thank you.